Shock Treatment the movie is rated PG, but Shock Treatment Minute is rated F for
FAR!
We're going to spend this time discussing the movie in gory detail, and along the way we'll talk about adult content and use adult language. Consider yourselves warned. Welcome to Shock Treatment Minute, the podcast where we break down shock treatment in excruciating detail 1 minute at a time. I'm one of your hosts, Leandra.
And I'm your other host, Kelly.
And today we don't have any special guests, but you, I think, said that you had a very special gift for me.
Did I? Was it a summary of minute 22?
It was. That was actually what was on my wish list.
Okay. Weird, but go off, queen.
You said that it was going to be in the form of an interpretive dance, though.
Yes. So go ahead and imagine that while I'm saying it.
Okay, I'm ready.
Because I will be doing it, of course.
Nude.
Yes. Always.
Yes. Well, it's actually kind of one of those, like, unitards sort of thing.
No, I'm
But
nude.
it's flesh-colored.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, titty swinging. Listeners, feel free to submit fan art of that. But
It's just me, like, Shia LaBeouf clapping in the background.
Well, so Bert responds to Nation's crowing and says, "Your speciality," and continues laughing uproariously and literally slapping his knees. A decidedly less giddy Cosmo says, "I can't wait to begin on him. Really, Bert, I don't know what we'd do without you." And then Bert says, "I must confess," he like wheezes. That was not a good
Bambi,
impression
stop.
of it. That's not a good impression of it. But he makes a really weird sound. And then he says, "The decision to have Brad committed was not strictly my own." And then reaches to put his hand over Nation's, and she just looks adoringly at him. Cosmo says, "No, of course, there's Janet. But if she was so keen on getting him in here, why wouldn't she sign the contract?" Then he goes over to the next filing cabinet, and Bert says, "No, it wasn't Janet exactly. It was, in fact, your new sponsor." Cosmo stops what he's doing and looks up and says, "Sponsor?" Bert says, "Denton Vale has been sold." Cosmo says, "Sold?" And then Nation says, "Dear old Bert's settled everything." And Bert says, "Yeah, you endorse his faith factory, and he endorses your research." Cosmo kind of starts to grimace before slamming the cabinet closed and yelling, "He? How dare this person take advantage of my weakness?" Bert looks awkward. Nation says, "I don't think he intends to go that far." Cosmo literally sniffs and turns away, and then Bert looks even more awkward Muppet for a second, but then he and Nation look at each other and start busting up laughing. Then we get the opening notes of a rock song and a shot down the hall towards the terminal ward, with Nurse Ansalong throwing open the doors and walking forward. And as the camera comes down the hallway, we can see Janet in the room within and the edge of what appears to be a circular barred cage. And that's the end of the minute.
So, I would normally at this point say something like, "And what a minute this is."
Mm-hmm.
I do not love this minute in particular. I
Oh,
have a lot
really?
of questions. I find it very confusing.
It is confusing, but I think it's a very fun minute. We get another. It's similar to Riff Raff's "They didn't like me" meltdown, you know?
I do like that.
Yeah.
There are some questions though, like, so Nation knew about the sponsor, but not Cosmo.
Yeah.
Why is Cosmo so upset? Is it like a crisis of ethics? Like, what does he care? And
Right.
like, what is his weakness?
Well, I think in general, we see Nation kind of more clued in and also just more on board with the whole Faith Factory thing throughout the movie. So, and she really, really seems to have a thing for Bert. So it makes sense to me that why they chose to tell her, I don't know, but it makes sense to me that she would have been in on it more or more quickly. Although Bert didn't seem like shy about sharing this with Cosmo.
Yeah.
However, I mean, you would have thought that them getting a sponsor would have been like something to announce to them, but or at least inform them of, but I guess that's what he's doing here. What I found a little confusing is Nation's line, the I don't think he intends to go that far. Like, I think that's a joke, as though how dare this person take advantage of my weakness meant, like, take advantage of him sexually, but then, well, actually, so I guess Nation's line is not as confusing to me as Cosmo's line. What was he talking about when he said that?
And that's my question. Like, what is his weakness that he's feeling is getting exploited here?
The only thing I can think of is finances.
I guess.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
It's that's a weird way to say it, that's for sure.
What would be a funnier weakness? Like, what can we say? Because I don't know that there's much of an answer that we can get canonically. What can we mittens for this? His weakness for, I don't know, horse racing.
No, it's eating flowers. His secret shame. I'll stop referencing The Simpsons at some point, but not at this point.
No. It's either Simpsons or Animorphs, and it really depends on how horny you are.
Oh, man. Wait, no. No, it doesn't. But I was about to say, imagine a Simpsons Animorphs episode.
I'm surprised
Or
that they
an
haven't done
Animorphs
something
episode. Yeah.
like that.
I guess it wasn't a big enough craze to get parodied in the 90s, or...
Yeah, I don't know.
Which is crazy because the Guardians of Ga'Hoole got a Simpsons reference.
You know what?
What?
Cosmo's weakness is young adult literature.
Cosmo and I share... Actually, I'm not really that into young adult literature, just awesome literature, such as Animorphs.
That's fair.
And to a lesser degree, Guardians of Ga'Hoole. And The Cruel Prince, which I read recently. That doesn't even feel like a young adult book. Anyway, I like the cinematography in this scene a lot. The way the camera is coming around, following from that... For almost the whole scene, it stays from a perspective of directly in front of Cosmo, and he's in the foreground and the others are in the background. Really interesting
Agreed.
shot.
100% agreed. They took a very cramped space and made it visually interesting by giving it an interesting angle.
Yeah. Really very interesting cinematography throughout this movie. I think it's really fabulous. And speaking of Richard O'Brien and Cosmo, his glasses, I noticed in this minute, have an almost CD-like quality because they've got a thicker or more opaque ring around the outside. It's very interesting. But they are interesting, to say the least. And I can't remember if I mentioned this previously, but he regrets wearing these.
Yeah, and I don't know that I agree. Like, they make him look so, like, almost alien in this scene in a way that I think really works well.
Well, the reason he regrets them is that he thinks they limited the amount of... Well, basically, they obscured his eyes, which limited, like, the amount of emotion he was able to display and things. I don't honestly think he has that problem, though.
Yeah, his eyebrows are doing the work.
Yeah, I don't think of Richard O'Brien as someone who does a lot of acting with his eyeballs. And also, you can see them. It's not, it's not like they were sunglasses or something. But I think they're wonderful.
But why is Nation so on board compared to Cosmo? Like, what in their lives makes it so that Nation is excited about this and Cosmo isn't? If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's just a difference of character, right? I mean, Cosmo seems to have more of a sense of professional ethics, perhaps. Nation seems to really want to get, like, rich and famous.
God, same.
Although, towards the end, at least, Cosmo becomes materialistic as well. But I did really like, on the commentary, Patricia Quinn said, I felt like I was kind of disloyal because Bert Schnick's always holding my hand in this, and I thought it was because he was blind. And Nell said, yeah, they all say that, darling. I will say, disloyal to whom? To her brother?
Yeah.
Which, yeah.
I mean, they share a bed. They
They
share
share
a riding crop.
BDSM, yeah. Keep it in
They
the
share
family.
a. Ugh, I hate that. But maybe they're not actually brother and sister. I know that they say that they are. Maybe this is like a White Stripes sort of thing.
Or a Boulet Brothers.
That's true. Yeah, let's stick with that. Maybe they're just like doing it for the act.
Yeah, I personally think they are incestuous, but those are all my notes too.
Awesome. What callbacks do you have?
I'm so glad you asked. I have no callbacks.
Okay, cool. I've got a couple. So there's an ongoing callback that you can do really throughout this entire conversation where anytime somebody says something, you go, what? And then they often like repeat themselves or have another person in the conversation say something to clarify, and then you go, oh. So there's a lot of what? Oh. So Nation says, our speciality. What? Your speciality, says Bert. Oh. And then Cosmo says, I can't wait to begin on him. And you say, I bet you should. Bleh.
Yeah.
I bet you say that to all the boys.
I bet you shit.
Really, Bert, I don't know what we'd do without you. And then you say, but we'd like to try. And then Bert says, I must confess the decision to have Brad committed was not strictly my own. And the callback that I found was Bert's got Roman fingers, and that's when he's like putting his fingers over onto Nation's hand. But there's got to be a better thing for this. Like, I don't know that I have the creativity to figure out what that better thing is, but we can figure it out. We can build it better.
Okay.
And then you say, do you know any sluts? I don't. And Cosmo says, no, of course, there's Janet. And then when Cosmo says, if she was so keen on getting him in here, why won't she sign the contract? And you shout, nudity clause. And then Bert says, it was in fact your new sponsor. And you shout, what? And then Cosmo says, sponsor. And you say, oh. And then Bert says, Denton Vale has been sold. And you say, what? And Cosmo says, sold. And you go, oh. And then Bert says, yeah, you endorse his Faith Factory, and he endorses your research. You shout, watch out for your fingers, or get paranoid, Cosmo. And then Cosmo slams the file drawer shut, and you yell, ow, my fingers. Or you shout, get really paranoid, Cosmo, which these get paranoid and get really paranoid. These are callbacks to Rocky when he does the, they didn't like me, they never liked me.
Well, so I propose go for the Oscar.
Oh, I like that.
Favorite of Linus O'Brien.
Then, how dare you take advantage of my weakness? You say, how dare this person take advantage of my hair? And then just commenting on the fact that the top file cabinet that Cosmo was at reads the letters A and H. You shout, what does the AH stand for? And then your friend says, asshole. And then you say, that's where you file your asshole. And then your friend says, how do you file your asshole? And then you say, with 20 grit toilet paper. Those are all of my callbacks.
Great. Well, in that case, Leandra,
Yes.
does this bird belong to you?
Ah!
Excellent.
Egg salad. All right, I stop recording now. No. Now. I bet you should